Good day, everyone. This is Dr. Francois du Toit, your naturopathic doctor and wellness coach. Today's episode 7 of the 7 Pillars of Wellness podcast series, the final episode. I'm so looking forward to delving into frequent movement, rediscovering movement as a way of life. So, for today's discussion, what I really want to share with everyone is that when we start embracing movement as a way of life, everything starts to make sense. And we tap into one of the most important pillars to shift our state of mind and our state of being to bring about the change we want to see in every area of our life. And it's like adding fuel to the tank to all the other pillars of wellness that we've been discussing right throughout this entire podcast series. We'll be delving into all the different things to consider when you are going into finding a form of movement that you want to do, that you enjoy doing, and that will bring about the health changes that you foresee for yourselves. And as the thread of the discussion has been going, and I'm sure everyone has assumed if you've gone through the episodes up to now, is there's much deeper principles and foundations at play when we think about movement, which is much more than just exercise. Because as I've said many times before, that exercise has become sort of like a swear word in the 21st century. And we need to consider for ourselves and analyze our own lives and think, why is that the case? I know for myself, I recorded a session recently and uploaded where I discussed that when I was young, I was forced to go to the gym 4 to 5 days of the week, about an hour. And I exceptionally disliked going to the gym because it was something that was forced upon me and I didn't have my own reasons or motivations along the way. Reflecting back, though, it's one of the greatest gifts that my father especially could have given to me, because it gave me such an advantage to be so fit and to perform so well in so many different areas of sports. I just needed to stop and analyze my own life and rediscover movement or exercise as a form of play, as a form of joy that adds fuel to the tank, literally, to propel me into the future and destiny that I foresee for myself. So today we're going to go into 3 different areas. Firstly, the way it was, and then into point 2, the benefits of natural movement, and then point 3, integrating movement into modern life. So jumping straight into the way it always was. We as human beings have always been in a natural setting. Born into this earth, born into nature. Nature has always provided a literal playground of activities for us to do. And so for so much of human history, it was essential for us to be able to gather our own food, to hunt, the hunter and gathering state of life. And the benefits of being in nature and the benefits of moving and benefits and the immense satisfaction to be able to find that sustenance from the abundance that nature always offered and always will offer, if we stop to really deeply appreciate, respect the abundance that nature can and always will provide when properly cared for. As it was the Garden of Eden, the abundance is always provided when we manage and care for the earth in the way that it has always been and always governs back to us, because nature has an intelligence that far surpasses the normal state of human consciousness that the 21st century and the Western lifestyle especially has cultured us into. And when we start to delve into the way that the modern life has conditioned us to be so, well, we're so blessed to have so much of the abundance of things taken care for us. We don't need to be concerned about, foraging for food anymore. The majority of my audience, that is in essence this rich or that wealthy to be able to listen to a podcast episode, generally speaking, is not the type of person that would normally have the kind of lack to be too concerned about where the next meal might be coming from. And if that is your scenario and that is your case, I deeply honor and I'm grateful for you for listening to this. But most of the things in this, the modern era have been taken care for us and at our disadvantage for not be and then being encouraged to need to move as much. So we really get stuck in the chair or the couch or the sofa. One of my mentors, Johan Jacobs, who wrote an amazing book called Go Natural that I recommend people to read. When he gave a seminar here in George, where I live and practice at the moment, he said that it's the sitting dis-ease and to find creative ways to move again and you really utilize the gift of this human body is something we need to rediscover for each of ourselves. Now, for me, the kind of like key that helped me to unlock the pleasure of movement was the journey that took me on to journaling frequently. I have personally have about 3 to 4 different journals for different areas of my life at the moment. But start by starting. I would recommend that every person has a journal book to start to write their thoughts and things that they want to achieve in life down on. And from that process, I started developing the discovery of that I wanted to go out and have adventures. And many of those adventures, just to use one example, for me, I grew up and I had the most profound and adventurous experiences out on the Orange River, going river rafting. That one of my goals is to go to some of the most spectacular white river rafting areas overseas, outside of South Africa, where I'm currently living. And to be able to do the type of white river rafting that I want to do eventually, I really need to have a good mindset, a strong mindset. I need to have the skills and I need to develop the understanding of currents and slipstreams and rocks and the equipment that is involved and breaking it down into small and smaller steps. Now, this next section or this next area will be more understanding if you understand the way Professor Jordan Peterson explains it. When we have a big goal, especially a scary goal, he related to like this is the big dragon in front of you. And he recommends to take that massive big dragon and breaking it down into smaller and smaller and smaller mini dragons, which are actually achievable kind of like obstacles that you can foresee, you can overcome. And when I take this massive white river rafting experience that I want to have, and potentially some of the most dangerous white river rafting rivers in the world, when I break it down bit by bit by bit, and many of this happened in my subconscious mind, because you might not realize this, but we are only 5% conscious mind and 95% subconscious mind. And when we tap into the 95% of the subconscious mind, which we delve into in any form of meditation or mindset training, you really tap into the supercomputer of what the mind or the brain is capable of doing. So a lot of this kind of like came about by meditating on what I'd written and journaled about. And I started to plan different smaller fitness challenges and goals for myself. which I won't go into detail for the sake of the length of this podcast, but it culminated in me deciding to do the half Ironman in 2022, which is 3 years ago. This is the 23rd uh, of June, 2024. And yeah, 3 years ago decided to do the half Ironman, which put me on a fitness trajectory that I'm still exceptionally grateful for. As of this year, I signed up for the half Ironman in Mossel Bay again with a group of friends, as well as to support an amazing fundraising effort in Mossel Bay, Ironman for the kids. And I'm so grateful for the different fitness skills and mindset skills that this journey has enabled me, because it's even opened up my vision to be able to foresee myself going on really extraordinary adventures, just because of the amount of different muscles and movements and strong mindset that a journey towards half Ironman has enabled me to uh, grow into myself. Onto the next section, the benefits of natural movement. So, what is natural movement? When we think about what the body has always been necessary to do, the conveniences of life subtracted. Well, if you take away chairs, if you take away tables, what position are we finding ourselves in most of the time? We are finding ourselves close to the ground. You're thinking about a squat. For the longest time in human history as well, there wasn't the convenience of our toilet seat. So when we had to go to the bathroom, and you understand why I mention this, and some people will laugh, when you appreciate the gut health and appreciate how it fuels your body in every imaginable way, to quote Hippocrates, all dis-ease begins in the gut. To embrace and fall in love with your own gastrointestinal tract again is an exceptional key towards well-being. And for the longest time in human history, we would have gone to the bathroom anywhere in nature where our poo is the fertilizer for the soil, allowing the plants to thrive. And we would have done that in a squatting position. I started delving into this on some YouTube videos, recognizing the tremendous health benefits of going into a resting squat. And I found it so challenging to actually be able to go into a resting squat where you can stay in that position for a long time, because of the inflexibility and stiffness I personally developed on my own fitness journey and exercise journey. And these are the natural movements that have scientifically been proven to support so many muscle groups and improve flexibility in so many ways. So far to say, and just explaining in this way, that to be able to perform a squat properly is one of the greatest health tools that we have. And I would recommend anyone to do more research on what a proper squat looks like. I know Dr. Barbara O'Neill, an exceptional natural medicine physician from Australia, talks about this, and has inspired me the most. And then I started delving into other videos on YouTube explaining how to perform a healthy and normal squat and how slowly you should start. In fact, I recommend that everyone has their own um, personal trainer or fitness coach to spot and watch and help them to incorporate this movement pattern. You'll be able to learn a lot of this also if you're aligned with a Pilates instructor or a physiotherapist. So that, because it is important to understand that this movement is a conditioned learning pattern that most people will perform incorrectly and might injure and hurt themselves. So that's just the side note. So whatever the movement is, be inspired by what you find when you're outside, ideally barefoot, and your hands and feet are in contact with the soil as much as possible, and then performing a range of movements that you find as low as possible on the ground. There's even styles of movement where you are crawling, hands and the feet on the ground, and you're mimicking a kind of like a leopard crawl, and how important these movement patterns are, where you are actually using the upper and lower body at the same time. Even a tremendous school of thought to rewild people again, where you are climbing a tree, climbing rocks, how powerful that is as well for the human body, and how holistic it is in supporting the physical strength. Hanging on things. How many people have compressed spines, compressed and protruding disc conditions because we are not really stretching out the body, moving the spine enough. And how much of that can be reversed by inversion? Literally, there are beds called inversion beds where you are, in essence, your feet are anchored and your weight distribution goes down to the body being upside down. And that stretches out, elongates the spine and your entire body, decompresses your body. And these benefits can also be achieved by finding a pull-up bar or a tree that has an appropriate strength, and all of these things we don't need to be retaught, so we can hang on a branch again, hang around a bit. I know I was very inspired by. I mostly listen to books and audible, so I listened to the entire biography from Wim Hof. The title of the book is The Wim Hof Method. And at one stage, he made a career of teaching children how to climb. For example, trees. I believe it was mostly trees. And he did that as a profession for quite a long time during a phase of his life where his wife committed suicide and left him alone to raise, I believe, well, let's say 5 to 7 children. I think it was in the upper numbers of 6 or 7 children. And one of the things that he found that was in need that he loved doing was going to parties. Almost like you have parties these days where you would hire a magician or hire someone to bring in some animals for the kids to pet. He would be at parties and different events and hired by parents to teach children to climb. That's actually where we are. We need to be taught all of these things again and be supported in finding these forms of movement again. And doesn't how powerful does that sound? When movement is a form of play, it's not a requirement or an instruction. It's just the way we always were. You don't need to encourage children to move. You don't need to find a routine for kids to pick up weights or anything like that. You put them outside, you put them in the garden, you put them, if you don't have access to a garden, you go out to a park, because we need these open spaces. You put kids there, they're running, they're playing, they're climbing, they're exploring. Such a beautiful thing to see, and we can learn so much from children. On to the last point of discussion, integrating movement into modern life. I've touched on this in many, many different areas already, but let's make this practical. So we need to be mindful of how convenience and ease and effortlessness, in the sense of at least the conveniences that technology has made for us. We have the chair, we have the table. Oh my goodness, we have the forms of entertainment. Talk about your TV, your cell phone, your laptop, that gets us stuck at homes, not moving much at all. This is one tip I was taught from a rewilding fitness instructor. Even if it is, and I watch movies, I'm not saying don't watch movies, don't watch TV at all, even though I do encourage most people to think about what it would be like if there was no cell phone, laptop, or TV, like in normal broadcasting, mainstream media TV in your household. What would you be doing? Would you be moving more? Would you be more creative? But then now, let's say the example is you are sitting in front of the TV. Instead of sitting on the couch or on the normal chair, sit on the ground. Just that bite on. You're going into a squat, stretching out all these leg muscles. And you're creating movement and flexibility in areas that is essential Like I said, we should be in that position every single day going to the bathroom. And in fact, I do recommend that even now, this is one tip that is life saving. One of the predominant diseases when it relates to gut health is colorectal cancer. And I believe the statistic was that we can reduce the incidence and the mortality, meaning the death causing rates of colorectal cancer up to 30%. I think it was 33%, just by going to the bathroom in a squatting position, because the toilet seat is not with the optimal position to go have a bowel movement. And we can even go a little bit further to understand that the optimal and ideal position for a woman to give birth is also in a squatting position. And it used to be that the doulas or the midwives were in control, and I'd love to see them be back in control, back in their profession fully, and recognized and appreciated and loved again. There was something they designed later on called a birthing chair, because just being in a low chair where I think it had 3 legs, it enables the woman to have full control of her muscles to be able to give a nearly effortless birthing experience. Just to show you how natural things always was and always can be when we start to think about these types of things. Some more practical things. Find creative ways to incorporate movement. If you're working in an office space and it has a lift or an elevator, take the stairs. Always. I know Ben Greenfield, who is one of the darling personal trainers, one of the biggest personalities on the internet, especially Instagram, talks about how he has many toys in his house. Weights everywhere, trampolines there, climbing walls, pull-up bars. And when he travels for his different events, speaking events, I believe especially, when he's in the airport, you would use a handrail in creative ways to do push-ups. We need to also grow thicker skin and not really care what other people think, because we need to move and find our exercise, if you want to call it that way, at any given moment. And we can be inspired by people like Ben Greenfield. I encourage anyone to follow him on social media or Instagram to be inspired to find more movement in your daily life. And remember this is a universal pattern. We shy away from discomfort or pain, and we gravitate towards pleasure and enjoyment. So find these forms of movement that you can foresee and genuinely enjoy doing, and that's pleasurable to do. And start slow. It's not about starting with going to the gym 1 hour every single day for 5 days of the week if you started at 0. It's a recipe for burnout and injuries. Now, in peak performance science, or in flow state science, especially popularized by one of the world experts, Stephen Kotler, a New York Times bestselling author, is that the percentage of growth that we can see consistently, and we're talking about a exponential growth for the rest of our lives in any person's life, guess what that percentage is? It's 4%. What that means in a practical example is, if I, Francois, can do 10 push-ups today on Monday, on Tuesday, how many push-ups am I going to do? How many people generally say, wow, okay, on Tuesday, I'm going to do 15 or 20 push-ups? Really? You're going to decide to go nearly 100% more than where you started and think that's going to be a sustainable strategy? Don't worry, I was there myself. I've made these mistakes. I'm talking from experience. So yes, it means that if on Monday I did 10 push-ups, on Tuesday I do 10 and a half. And you can actually then, by using this 4% principle, have an exponential growth in your health and fitness journey. And this applies to all areas of life, that 4% principle. If you apply it to all of the 7 pillars of wellness, you have a sustainable and long-lasting trajectory of really being an overcomer when it comes to health and well-being. So, as we have discussed, we really need to understand the history of the human experience and how the conveniences of the 21st century, that was accelerated exceptionally by the Industrial Revolution, while it has had tremendous advantages, also has tremendous disadvantages to not allow really feeling that we have the need to move as much as we used to be. But when you can really tap into finding a form of movement that's enjoyable and pleasurable for you, and really learn how to play like a kid again, not only will you always enjoy it, but you'll find the fruits of that in terms of a strong and healthy and fit body, being able to do things you never thought possible. And start small. It is really a journey. And I remember this also, even though I have always, not always, for the longest period of time that I think when I've started on this personal growth journey, I've listened to many gurus and mentors that is sometimes called, and I have often called, motivational speakers. And I trust this message is inspiring to everyone because I emulate them. Remember this, and I learned this also from doing research and sitting other different gurus and different mentors, is this saying that discipline eats motivation for breakfast. So it's about finding and practicing a routine and be creative in your approach. For me at the moment, because of the triathlon journey, I'm never bored. I might be running on Monday, cycling on Tuesday, swimming on Wednesday, have a rest day, walking maybe then if I really I do find movement in even rest days, or doing the nitric oxide boost that I was taught by Dr. Zach Bush, and that was also well recorded and explained in a practical YouTube video by Dr. Joseph McCullough. Very short micro exercise that you can fit in nearly any time of the day. I believe it takes about 5 minutes. I do it slower, so maybe it takes 5 or 6 minutes for me, but I like slow-based movement. And you're supposed to do that 3 or 4 times a day, and you have tremendous benefit in your nitric oxide system, which is one of the most important molecules for cardiovascular health and optimizing and boosting your energy levels along the way. So, coming into the last couple of minutes, it's time for the quote for the episode. Movement is a medicine for creating change in a person's physical, emotional, and mental states. And that comes from Carol Welch. And when you look and understand that, now thinking about mental emotional patterns, and I can delve into this for hours. If you want to shift your state of being, meaning, let's take this example. You are depressed. It's a state of emotion that is potentially easier to get stuck in. How do we move ourselves out from that mental emotional state? It's not necessarily, and at least not the most effective approach, even though this will work, telling yourself positive things. And I do encourage people to meditate on what they can be grateful for, but that is not necessarily the fastest way or the most powerful way to shift you from that depressed state. It's actually by utilizing movement. I know Tony Robbins finally released his state shifting routine. You can go watch that on YouTube, I believe if it's still up, where he puts on powerful music, meditates on what 3 things he can be grateful for, 3 things he wants to achieve in that day, and a couple of other things. But it does that by also moving his body, going into the victory pose where his arms are up in the air, making vigorous movements, and dancing to hyped up and very powerful, inspiring music, then that's just his own. Make it, and I encourage everyone, make that your own, where the movements leads you to a faster mental emotional state change than you can possibly imagine. So here's the lasting thought that I designed for everyone. Movement is not so much a form of exercise as it is a way of life we all need to rediscover for ourselves. So I invite everyone to share their experiences on their journey of making movement a way of life again and making movement your medicine. Share it on all the different platforms that you're on to inspire others, and share this message with everyone that you feel will benefit from hearing this. And if this message has touched you, share this along, pay it forward. I encourage you to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast as we've now officially wrapped up season 1 of the 7 Pillars of Wellness series, Wellness Mastery. I thank you and I honor you for coming alongside this journey with me. And I look forward to how this podcast series will be reimagined in one way or another, God willing, into the future. Blessings, everyone. Keep well, stay healthy, stay strong.